Have you ever walked out of a coffee shop conversation feeling strangely heavier, like someone slipped an extra backpack onto your shoulders while you weren't looking? No harsh words, no obvious drama, just an invisible weight that wasn't there before. What if that sensation isn't just bad vibes, but proof that another person's unconscious fears, regrets, or resentments have quietly settled into your own mental real estate? Most of us trust we can spot trouble. A raised voice, a pointed finger, a blatant boundary violation. Yet, Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who mapped the human psyche like few before or since, warned that the real threats wear subtler disguises. They slip in under the radar of polite conversation, tucked inside a smile, a compliment, or a perfectly reasonable request. While you focus on the obvious villains, the unconscious of others can move into your inner world rent-free. Picture an ordinary workplace meeting. Sarah, always charming, tells a self-deprecating story about her missed deadlines and ends with a laugh. I guess I'm just hopeless without someone double-checking me. Everyone chuckles. 10 minutes later, you're volunteering to take on her tasks. You didn't plan on extra work, yet here you are carrying her anxiety, her unfinished business. That handoff was invisible. Jung called it projection. Now contrast that with Stoic wisdom. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, emperor turned philosopher, seated in a dimly lit tent on the Danube frontier, meditating on the chaos of empire. His solution wasn't to micromanage every soldier, but to fortify the one fortress he truly controlled, his own mind. You have power over your mind, he reminds himself and us. The Stoic invitation is timeless. Treat your inner world like a walled citadel. Every thought, every feeling deserves a passport check at the gate. Jung gives us the night vision goggles to see those shadowy passengers sneaking in. The Stoics hand us the spear and shield. One shows the hidden forces at play. The other teaches us to respond with disciplined clarity instead of open-door hospitality. Together, they form a complete map. X-ray insight plus practical defense. So, ask yourself, when was the last time you left a Zoom call, a family dinner, or even a scrolling session on social media feeling inexplicably foggy or irritable? Whose emotions might you have imported? More importantly, did you notice the import accident in your mood? A shift in your self-talk? I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I prided myself on being the good listener friend. Everyone's confessions landed in my inbox at 2 a.m., and so did their insomnia. I'd wake up drained, carrying resentments that weren't mine, puzzled why my own goals felt distant. Jung would have diagnosed me as an unconscious accomplice. The Stoics would have sat me down and said, "It's noble to open your heart, but keep the gates to the citadel reinforced." Think of the unconscious like a computer virus. It doesn't announce itself with flashing lights. It hides in a friendly-looking attachment, maybe a harmless, "Can I vent for a second?" and then rewrites code in the background. Suddenly, your priorities lag, your confidence crashes, and you wonder why everyday life feels slower, glitchier. Updating your antivirus means cultivating what the Stoics called prosoche, constant attention to what you allow inside. In this video series, we'll unpack 6 of the most destructive personality patterns. Jung identified people who rarely shout, rarely fight, yet slowly siphon your peace. More importantly, we'll explore Stoic countermoves you can practice today. Mental pauses, boundary scripts, tiny rituals that reset your psychological firewall. This isn't a manifesto for cynicism. You can remain kind, empathetic, and open-hearted. The lesson is distinction, not detachment. When you recognize someone else's unexamined shadow trying to hitch a ride, you can offer compassion without offering a spare room in your head. Take a moment right now. Whose voice echoes in your mind when you doubt yourself? A parent's worry? A coworker's perpetual frustration? Drop their luggage at the curb, politely, firmly. Then share in the comments which subtle interactions drain you the most. Your story might illuminate someone else's blind spot. Before we dive deeper, try this Stoic-inspired check-in tonight. At day's end, List 3 emotions you felt most strongly. For each, ask, is this truly mine? If the answer is no, visualize handing it back, like returning a borrowed sweater that never fit. Notice the lightness that follows. In the next segment, we'll meet the projection carrier, the friend, who never shouts yet, leaves you guilty for problems you never caused. You'll learn a simple, sentence-long boundary that restores your clarity in under 30 seconds. Hit subscribe, and let's build that inner fortress together, brick by mindful brick. Remember, the greatest cities in history fell not only to armies at the gate, but to whispers within the walls. Guard your citadel. Shine a light on the shadows. Because when your mind is truly your own, every relationship you choose becomes deeper, freer, and infinitely more alive. Have you ever walked away from a coffee chat with a friend feeling oddly heavy, like someone slipped their backpack full of rocks onto your shoulders when you weren't looking? That invisible weight is often carried by what I call projection carriers, emotional offloaders who slip their unprocessed shame, rage, or fear onto the most empathetic person in the room, usually you. They might sigh, confess, "I'm just a mess today," then leave you inexplicably guilty for not doing more. It's empathy judo. Their pain flips your kindness against you. Carl Jung pinned a clinical name to this move. Projection. We cast the feelings we can't face onto someone else's screen so we don't have to watch the movie ourselves. But projection carriers go a step further. They weaponize guilt, wrapping it in softness. Think of the coworker who always arrives late and murmurs, "I know I'm letting the team down," then waits for you to reassure them while you scramble to cover their shift. Their vulnerable tone disarms you, but underneath, they've outsourced responsibility. You leave the conversation weirdly ashamed, as if you were the absentee. So, how do we protect our emotional real estate without hardening our hearts? The Stoics offer a 2-step firewall: pause and inspect. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When a projection carrier paints you with their anxious reds and blues, stop. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this hue actually mine? Picture holding their words at arm's length, like a jacket someone tries to drape over you. If it doesn't fit, set it down. No argument, no lecture, just a silent refusal to wear feelings that aren't tailored for you. Importantly, we'll explore Stoic countermoves you can practice today. Mental pauses, boundary scripts, tiny rituals that reset your psychological firewall. This isn't a manifesto for cynicism. You can remain kind, empathetic, and open-hearted. The lesson is distinction, not detachment. When you recognize someone else's unexamined shadow trying to hitch a ride, you can offer compassion without offering a spare room in your head. Take a moment right now. Whose voice echoes in your mind when you doubt yourself? A parent's worry? A coworker's perpetual frustration? Drop their luggage at the curb politely, firmly. Then share in the comments which subtle interactions drain you the most. Your story might illuminate someone else's blind spot. Before we dive deeper, try this Stoic-inspired check-in tonight. At day's end, list 3 emotions you felt most strongly. For each, ask, is this truly mine? If the answer is no, here's a practice I use on the fly: the ownership checklist. First, name the emotion you're suddenly carrying: shame, anger, fear. Second, trace its origin. Did it arise inside you, or did it arrive with someone else's story? Third, decide: keep or return to sender. I once had a relative unload years of frustration about family issues in a single phone call. My stomach knotted, my pulse raced, and then the Stoic voice whispered, "Pause, whose knot is this?" Realizing it wasn't mine unclenched everything. I empathized, offered help, but let the knot stay on their side of the line. Now, I'm not saying we avoid compassion. Empathy is a superpower. We just need boundaries on how far it stretches. Imagine your emotional space as a garden. You can invite others in, even help them prune their weeds, but you don't dig up your roses to fix their soil. Next time you sense that creeping heaviness after a simple chat, run the ownership checklist. And ask yourself, if I drop this weight, can I walk lighter and offer better help? Odds are, yes. Remember, we can't control who projects onto us, but we can choose whether to hang their movie poster in our minds. Pause, inspect, and let go, because life's too short to star in someone else's unfinished screenplay. Have you ever met someone who feels like a walking LinkedIn profile, always on, perfectly curated, never a wrinkle in their story? They're what I call persona-driven performers. They greet you with a smile that belongs in a brand commercial, speak in tidy sound bites, and keep every conversation hovering safely above the messy clouds of real emotion. At first, it's impressive. Their resume seems to breathe. But stay a little longer, and you'll notice something unsettling. Your own authenticity begins to shrink. You laugh a touch louder, edit your sentences on the fly, maybe even adjust your posture, all to fit the lighting of their stage. Think about the last office happy hour or neighborhood barbecue where you found yourself nodding politely while someone delivered the greatest hits of their week. Did you feel invited to share your own backstage footage, your doubts, your offbeat ideas, that weird hobby you love? Or did you tuck those edges away because the performer's mask left no room for real texture? Marcus Aurelius warned us nearly 2,000 years ago. Don't confuse your role with your soul. Yet persona-driven performers do exactly that. Their role CEO, supermom, community hero grows so polished it reflects like glass. And glass, while shiny, is fragile. One honest question can crack it. Here's the hidden danger. When we orbit a performer long enough, we slip into supporting roles in their highlight reel. I once collaborated with a colleague who could turn every team meeting into her personal TED Talk. Gradually, I began editing my feedback to complement her narrative arc. The more I performed, the less I contributed. My original ideas, some good, some still half-baked, never left the draft folder because they didn't match the glossy script. It took a red-eye flight and a journal entry at 3 a.m. to realize I'd become a prop in someone else's story. So, how do we keep our souls from shrinking behind other people's masks? The Stoics offer a simple but radical tactic. Ask one deeper question. When a performer cruises on autopilot, business is booming, family is perfect, life is awesome. Gently steer the dialogue. That's great! What's been the most surprising challenge behind all that success? Authenticity is contagious. A single sincere question can coax a genuine answer, or at least reveal the mask. And if the mask stays glued, that's your cue. Protect your depth. Bring your full, unedited self anyway, cracked edges, odd angles, and all. Next time you sense yourself shrinking to fit someone else's frame, pause. Remember, you're not an extra in their cinematic universe. Step off the scripted set and back onto the real stage of conversation. Because while polished personas dazzle for a moment, genuine presence lingers long after the spotlight fades, and that's the real worth starring in. Picture a snow-capped volcano, a daunsolent, majestic, the very image of composure. Yet beneath that white serenity, magma churns. Many of us live the same way. We wear the cool, principled face of a stoic, telling the world, I'm good, totally under control. But somewhere below the surface, anger swirls at a colleague's promotion, envy simmers over a friend's Instagram perfect life, or grief pulses for a loss we never gave ourselves permission to mourn. We become repressed shadow stoic scum volcanoes walking around in business casual. How do you know if you're one of us? Look for the leaks. A sarcastic jab that lands a little too sharp. A polite text that sounds strangely chilly. Or that one coworker who always replies, no worries. Yet you can feel the frost through the phone. The tension is real, but it speaks in whispers, never in full sentences. Carl Jung nailed it. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Translation? If we don't own the messy feelings, they'll borrow our mouths and steer our lives anyway. I learned this the hard way. Years ago, a close friend announced he was moving across the country for a dream job, the exact role I'd been chasing. I congratulated him with a smile so wide my cheeks ached. But inside, envy and disappointment crashed like waves. Over the next month, I noticed myself forgetting to return his calls and sliding little humor-dipped digs into our group chat. One night, after firing off a passive-aggressive meme, you know the type, I finally asked, "What is this really about?" That single honest question cracked the crust. I admitted I felt left behind. Oddly, the moment I said it out loud, the jealousy cooled and the friendship survived. Here's the paradox. Stoicism isn't about being emotion-proof. It's about becoming emotion-literate. Marcus Aurelius journaled every night, not to hide feelings, but to interrogate them. What passion governs me right now? True Stoic strength is a spotlight, not a lid. So how do we shine that light? 1. Daily check-ins. Before bed, ask, what emotion visited me today that I never invited to speak? Write it down. No filter, no judgment. 2. Name the shadow. Is it anger? Envy? Grief? Emotions named? Are emotions tamed? 3. Channel, don't bottle. Anger can fuel a tough workout. Grief might inspire a call to someone you love. Energy wants movement, not confinement. Imagine if every calm volcano released pressure, slowly steam, instead of eruptions. Relationships would feel warmer, not singed. Workplaces would trade sarcasm for clarity, and you'd stop wondering why tiny annoyances spark oversized reactions. So next time you feel the magma rise, resist the urge to slap on the all-good mask. Pause, look inward, and let the shadow step into the daylight. Remember, a volcano that vents is still powerful, but it's far less likely to explode when people least expect it. Have you ever shared good news? Maybe you finally hit a fitness goal, or landed a promotion only to hear a friend sigh, "I'm happy for you." But don't forget, real success is staying humble. That's a moral controller at work. Someone who brandishes virtue like a yardstick and starts measuring you the moment you step forward. Their critiques sound noble. I'm just telling the truth. Someone has to keep it real. If I didn't care, I wouldn't say anything. Yet, somehow, their caring leaves you carrying guilt, not growth. Here's what's really happening. Moral controllers often stash away impulses they don't want to face: envy, insecurity, maybe a secret craving for the spotlight. Because those feelings clash with their self-image, they project them onto you. Your shiny new accomplishment becomes the mirror they can't bear, so they fog it with righteous language. You're no longer improving. You're showing off. You're not setting boundaries. You're abandoning the team. Their words wrap around your excitement like shrink wrap, squeezing joy into apology. Plato called this trap out 24 centuries ago. In the Republic, he warned against loving the appearance of virtue more than virtue itself. The appearance is safe, photogenic, and great for social media captions. True virtue, on the other hand, rolls up its sleeves. It builds, uplifts, and even more radical, it celebrates when you build and uplift too. Let's test this in real life. Think of a time you made a positive change: quit smoking, started therapy, learned to say no. Who cheered? Who questioned your motives? The cheerleaders likely practice real morality. They know your win doesn't subtract from theirs, it multiplies. The skeptics? They might be fighting their own unspoken battles and recruiting you into the ring. I learned this lesson during a sabbatical when I quietly started a mindfulness routine. An old mentor someone I admired texted, "Meditation's fine, but don't turn into one of those self-absorbed spiritual types." For days I felt defensive, almost embarrassed to keep sitting on the cushion. Then a journal prompt snapped me awake. Does his warning make me wiser or smaller? Smaller. Definitely smaller. That realization broke the spell. I thanked him for his concern and kept meditating. 6 months later, he asked for the app I used. So how do we navigate moral controllers without becoming moral snipers ourselves? 1. Separate critique from content. Strip away the sermon. Is there actionable wisdom underneath? If yes, keep it. If not, let it drift by like smoke. 2. Check your emotional posture. Are you shrinking? Authentic virtue should straighten your spine, not bow your head. 3. Respond, don't repent. A simple, "I hear your concern, thanks for sharing," honors the relationship without surrendering your momentum. Remember, morality's true job is to expand human potential, yours, mine, everyone's. When advice leaves you feeling small, it's a signal, not a sentence. As you grow, expect some moral controllers to appear. Smile, stay the course, and keep shining. Because real virtue isn't a weapon. It's a lampstand. The brighter it burns, the more room there is for all of us to see the way forward. Have you ever walked into your own kitchen and felt the air change? Like thunder rolling in before you even see the clouds? 1 second your partner is humming along to a John Mayer song. The next they snap face tight, shoulders rigid because you left a coffee mug in the sink. That's life with a trigger-driven storm. A person who rides old emotional complexes like a rodeo bull. You find yourself tiptoeing through the house, scanning for sudden lightning so everyone stays okay. But here's the problem. Living on eggshells isn't peace. It's survival mode, with nicer curtains. Think back to childhood games of Don't Wake the Dragon. We learned early that if we could just stay quiet, maybe the grown-ups wouldn't blow their top. Fast forward to adulthood, and the pattern repeats. A coworker gets prickly during budget meetings because a past layoff still echoes in their mind. A friend spirals at the word commitment after a messy divorce. When their mood flips, we rush to become caretakers. We soften our tone, rearrange our day, even pre-apologize for things we haven't done anything to stop the storm. In the process, our own needs slip quietly out the back door. Here's the Stoic gut check. Your life belongs to your mind. Epictetus reminds us that external events and other people's reactions are outside our control. Their unhealed wounds may roar, but their healing is not our assignment. Self-discipline means steering our ship, not theirs. Think of it like air travel. When turbulence hits, the pilot tightens the harness and follows protocol. He doesn't jump into the next cockpit over to fly another plane mid-storm. So how do we disengage from the caretaker trap without turning cold? Try the weather report method. When the mood shift hits, mentally note, we've got a squall line of anxiety moving through. That small label creates psychological distance. Storm. Clouds belong to the sky, not your identity. Second, set a boundary that honors both parties. I can see you're upset. I'm here when you want to talk, but I'm going to finish my dinner first. Calm, firm, zero sarcasm. It signals empathy without forfeiting self-respect. I tested this with a relative who swings from charm to eruption whenever holiday plans change. Last Christmas, instead of rewriting the entire menu at the 11th hour, I paused and said, I understand the change is frustrating. I'm sticking with turkey as planned, but let's brainstorm desserts together once we cool off. Was she thrilled? Did she ultimately adjust? Yes. And for the first time in years, I enjoyed the meal without indigestion. If you recognize yourself in this caretaker loop, ask, whose forecast am I living under? Imagine the freedom of stepping out of someone else's storm and feeling the calm of your own clear sky. The goal isn't to abandon people we love. It's to refuse the role of lightning rod. Because true compassion isn't absorbing every voltage, it's modeling steady weather so others can learn to regulate their own. Imagine you're settling in for a quiet evening plans. Popcorn, peace when your phone lights up. Emergency, need to talk now. It's the friend who always seems one meltdown away from collapse. 5 minutes of listening turns into 50. By the time you hang up, your popcorn is cold and your mood is drained dry. Welcome to life with an emotional enmesher. The psychic vampire who mistakes dependence for love. Here's their signature move. Every crisis feels nuclear, and you're cast as first responder. Lost keys? Existential panic. Minor health scare? They're drafting their will. These call-and-response dramas forge a sticky bond symbiotic fusion, psychologists call it. They borrow your calm to patch their chaos. And before long, your identity starts blending into theirs like two paint colors swirled into one unrecognizable shade. I caught myself in this pattern a few years back with a college buddy named Alex. He'd phone at midnight, breathless about a coworker's comment, convinced he'd be fired by sunrise. I'd coach him through worst-case scenarios till 2 a.m., then drag at work the next morning. One day, my manager said, "You look exhausted, everything okay at home?" That's when it hit me. I was living Alex's emotional schedule, not my own. The Stoics saw this coming. Marcus Aurelius wrote about guarding the inner citadella, private fortress of mind. No one gets to storm without permission. Real love, he said, does not annex. It expands. If a relationship shrinks your sleep, your joy, your sense of self, it's time to check the drawbridge. So how do we keep compassion without becoming a 24-hour fuel pump for someone else's anxiety? Try a 3-step boundary drill. 1. Name the pattern. Quietly label what's happening. Alex leans on me whenever he feels unsafe. Naming uncloaks the dynamic. 2. Set the hours. I care about you, and I'm free to chat weekends, but weeknights after 10, I'm offline. Short, kind, firm, no footnotes. 3. Offer growth tools, not gasoline. Suggest a therapist, a journaling app, or even a breathwork video. Help them build their own generator instead of siphoning power from yours. Did Alex push back? Absolutely. Dependence fears solitude, the way vampires fear sunlight. Yet over time, the schedule stuck. He found a counselor, learned to ride the wave solo, and our friendship leveled into healthy tides instead of tsunamis. Ask yourself, whose emergencies are running my calendar? If someone's love feels like the terms and conditions of a complex lease, remember you own your inner square footage. Lock the doors when needed. Because relationships worth keeping don't drain your batteries. They share charges, so both phones stay at 100%. Next time your screen flashes with a late-night, urgent, pause, breathe. Step into your fortress. Decide if this truly warrants a drawbridge drop. Protect that space, and you'll discover something powerful. When you guard your energy, you teach others to generate their own. And real love has room to grow instead of room to consume. Let's zoom out for a moment. We've just unpacked 6 tricky archetypes: projection carriers, persona performers, calm volcanoes, moral controllers, trigger storms, and psychic vampires. Each one can hijack your attention, tilt your mood, and rewrite the story you tell yourself. But here's the uplifting twist. Once you see a pattern, it starts to lose its spell. Awareness is like turning the light on in a haunted house. The shadows are still there, but they can't jump scare you anymore. 1. Flash tag the pattern. Think of your next interaction as a wildlife safari. The moment someone's words make your stomach tighten or your shoulders rise, mentally tag what you're witnessing. Projection leopard at 3 o'clock. Or moral controller peacock showing feathers. This tiny inner comment buys you a beat of distance, a pocket of time where you choose a response instead of firing a reflex. 2. Fortify the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius called the mind a citadel, not a bunker of isolation, but a place of chosen entry. Here's a quick protocol. 1. Pause. 1. Slow. Inhale. 2. Scan. Ask, is this feeling mine? 3. Sort. If the answer is no, picture setting that feeling down like a heavy grocery bag that isn't on your receipt. Do that 3-step loop enough times, and guarding your mental gate becomes second nature, like locking your phone screen when you pocket it. 3. Trade baggage for balance. Real generosity springs from overflow, not depletion. If helping someone leaves you chronically tired or resentful, you're not giving. You're leaking. The Stoic fix isn't cold indifference, it's accurate portion control. Offer a listening ear? Sure. Offer your last drop of energy? Only if you can refill quickly. Kindness minus boundaries isn't virtue. It's self-neglect dressed in polite clothing. 4. Choose truth, balance, self-mastery. The world loves a headline about self-sacrifice, but Stoicism nudges us towards something sturdier: self-ownership. Ask these 3 questions before any big yes. Truth. Am I saying this because it's real or because it looks good? Balance. Will this choice respect both their needs and mine? Self-mastery. Will future me thank present me for it? If you score 2 out of 3, proceed. If you strike out, renegotiate. 5. Practice, don't preach. Philosophy isn't a spectator sport. Tomorrow morning, pick one micro habit to test. Maybe the one breath pause, or a journal line that reads, "Whose emotion did I borrow today?" Keep it simple, visible, and repeatable, like placing your car keys by the door so you never lose them. Over weeks, those small reps stack into muscle memory. The citadel walls rise brick by brick. Parting thought. Your first duty really is to your own soul. Not because self-care is trendy, but because a well-aligned soul becomes a lighthouse. When your inner beam is steady, you illuminate the room for everyone else without burning out. So spot the pattern, guard the gate, and move through life lighter, clearer, and unmistakably your own. Let's keep building that resilience together. Like, share, and hit subscribe if you're ready to live from the inside out.